fight over more aid for Ukraine. A critical test vote in the Senate today appears doomed to fail as Republicans dig in on border security. Top spokesman for the National Security Council, John Kirby, is standing by. But first, senior national correspondent Terry Moran is tracking the latest.
This morning, it's the moment of truth for U.S. aid to Ukraine. But the blame game has already begun on Capitol Hill.
This mess was created entirely by hard right Republicans.
Democrats are furious that after weeks of talks over a bill that would send urgently needed military aid to Ukraine, negotiations on Capitol Hill have fallen apart. A classified congressional briefing on aid to Ukraine degenerated into a heated debate with one senator screaming at a U.S. general, sources say. Ukraine desperately needs more ammunition and weapons from the U.S. as Russia's sheer size and brute force tactics generate steady gains on the battlefield. But Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson has drawn a line in the sand, declaring that any new funding is contingent on transformative change to our nation's border security laws. Republicans insist that Democrats and President Biden must agree to toughen U.S. asylum laws and build more border wall, among other demands. Congress has failed to act on major immigration reform for decades, and now communities along the border are overwhelmed.
These are the people that are waiting as of right now to get into a van with Border Patrol just to get processed. But there are hundreds more standing right behind them, also waiting to somehow get picked up by the agents.
Last night, as the clock ticks, the president was blunt.
The failure to support Ukraine is just absolutely crazy.
Senate Majority Leader Schumer says there will be a vote on aid to Ukraine today. It will almost certainly fail, and then it will be back to negotiations with both sides far apart and dug in, and outnumbered Ukrainian troops on the battlefield, running out of ammunition and arms as Russian forces keep grinding them down. George?
Terry Moran, thanks. Let's bring in the top spokesman for the National Security Council, John Kirby. John, thanks for joining us today. We just heard President Biden say it would be crazy not to pass this aid package. We also heard Terry Moran say the Democrats don't have the votes right now. So what is the president going to do?
Well, we're going to keep staying engaged with Congress, George. We were up on Capitol Hill yesterday. We'll keep having those conversations to try to get this over the finish line. I mean, this aid to Ukraine is absolutely critical, and it comes at a critical time, George, as the winter months start to set in and it becomes harder for the Ukrainians to be able to claw back some of that territory.
So since it's so critical, what can the president do on border security to get the Republican votes he needs?
Well, again, I won't negotiate here in public, but I'll tell you from day one, he submitted a proposal for immigration reform. We're serious about it. We're willing to have a good faith negotiation with the Republican side over this, but they're simply not willing to do that. They just want to saddle up this supplemental funding, lard it up here with border proposals that are simply unacceptable to the president and the administration, and basically holding this Ukraine aid hostage. So again, we're willing to have a good faith negotiation, and I would add that a significant chunk of the supplemental requests that we submitted, George, had border security in there, more Border Patrol agents, more asylum courts and court officers, more physical infrastructure. So I think we're willing to have a discussion on that, but what we don't want to see is Ukraine held hostage for it.
Two sides don't seem close right now. The consequences of this stalemate could be the defeat of Ukraine, couldn't it?
It could very well lead to Ukraine not being able to defend itself going into the winter months. Look, we've been saying this for weeks now. The Russians are on the offensive in some places, and they have every intention to continue to go on the offensive even through the winter months. They've got more manpower than the Ukrainians, and they've got a lot of resources to devote to this fight, even if they aren't really doing a lot on the battlefield. So this is a critical time for Ukraine, and we're running out of time. We're running out of money.
Running out of time, running out of money. Of course, Israel aid is also at stake here in Congress right now, and the war continues to grind on in Gaza. What can you tell us about the remaining American hostages?
Don't have a whole lot more information for you on that this morning, George. We think there's about 8 hostages that are Americans. We know of at least one woman in that group. We're doing everything we can to try to get them released. We're constantly engaged with our partners in the region to try to get this humanitarian pause back in place so that the flow of hostages can renew. I will tell you, though, that even with the pause now ended, we are still flowing in humanitarian assistance, and we're trying to get it up to the level that it was during the pause.
But there doesn't appear to be a clear end game to this war.
Well, again, I can't speak to the end game specifically this morning, George. I mean, that's really something for the Israelis to speak to. We obviously want to see Hamas eliminated as a threat to the Israeli people. That hasn't been achieved yet. They're going after the leadership as best they can. They believe they need to operate in the south, and we've told them, we'll continue to support their military operations, but we want to make sure that as they do that, they're factoring in those innocent civilian lives as much as possible.
John Kirby, thanks as always for your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.